did you go to school?
And who's your
What do you think of what's going on right now, mate?
These evil little invisible parasites.
Satan-worshipping Freemason moron.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
We're not run by factions.
Get the fuck out of camera!
There are much more powerful international forces in play.
Is this pink guy? Is this what pink guy is? I don't fucking know what's happening.
Please go outside and look at the moon quickly.
It's been crazy, guys, but guess what? It's how it is, mate.
Mate, because I want to do you slowly.
Well, I ain't spending any time on it.
Welcome to the Conditional Release Program, a podcast that delves into the netherworld of cults, crims, and con artists. Yes, that did sound funny, because I'm Joel Hill, and this week we have good friend of the podcast, Dave Burgess, back to tell us all about his experiences with wild cookers, infiltrating activist groups, and generally just being horrible cunts. Very political horrible cunts in this instance, really. It is incredibly important for me to mention that we still have a CVCO voucher code running, which is CRP10, and their beers are still far superior to most of the crap that you get down at the bottle shop. And I just recently experienced that, having run out of CVCO and having to buy inferior trash. I did spend a lot of money on some quite good beers, and they were really good. But it was like $30 for 4 of them. Are you fucking kidding? That's insane. So, for excellent prices with free shipping, you can get CRP10. We don't make money out of this. So, if you want to give us money, go on the Patreon. But if you want beer, go to CVCO. They do send me beer, but there's no quid pro quo on your purchases. Now, it's time to talk to Dave, who is going to tell us how utterly fucked the East Coast of Australia is, and hopefully at some point we can feel some sense of hope. What a fun topic. Lead us in.
Hey, Joel, how you going?
Yeah, good, man, good. Time to crack a beer.
So we often hear about freedom fighters talking about planting seeds, in quotes, into the minds of normies, right? Mm-hmm. So I got right up close and personal an experience of this a fortnight ago while helping a dear old friend clear out his rural property after his wife of 40-odd years died last year.
Yeah.
Various items being dispersed to places where they could be used, op shops, the works.
Yeah. That makes a bit of sense. Just getting rid of stuff, but try not to waste it.
Yeah. And at one stage during this process, a car pulls in, and out got 2 of the Lower Hunter area's more prominent cookers, Bosie My Place affiliates.
Cool. So they want to hang people.
Yeah. Peace and love and light and all that. But yeah, I knew immediately who they were. Mm-hmm. They bustled in looking like they meant business, but before they did anything else, I witnessed one just casually slip the latest issue of the Light newspaper and a copy of our local cooker rag, the People's Opinion paper, into my friend's pile of mail.
I've never seen the People's Opinion paper.
No,
that sounds fun.
That's a very small Cessnock A4 rag.
Oh, fucking hell.
Edited by Daddy and the uncle of our 2 My Place counsellors. So it's all,
interesting.
All in the family.
Gross.
And the glowing look of smug on this person's face, who is running for council on the cooker ticket. She's not going to get in. She's number 3 or 4 in the ward, but she's on the ticket. The Jess Jerd one is featured on the 7:30 report about My Place.
Doesn't she not know anything about My Place, though? Doesn't she have no idea about it?
Who did the
Jess
candidate? Jess Jerd. Oh, no, she's got no idea. What's My Place?
What is it? What is it? I don't know. Well, it's crazy. Yeah, maybe she'll read about the fucking Light.
Yeah, or there's just profiles in My Place with Jizz Jerdy and other weird things that seem to know a lot about Cessnock Council.
If you're going to have an anonymous profile, don't make it close to your name.
I know. Well, early days, they've learned now.
Not bad.
But yeah, it was just disgusting. Like, I just watched it and you could sense the satisfaction of slipping another copy of the paper into someone's mail. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's probably worth covering how the light's distributed more thoroughly one day, because it's a real nasty beast.
I've got a few copies. We've got a couple of copies before together, and it is an utterly fucked in the head piece of writing, yeah.
And the distribution's quite organised, like towns like Coffs Harbour and certainly here I've had it delivered a couple of times, and there are coordinated attempts to get it delivered far and wide.
Yeah, they're in a fucking cult. You know,
and the BBC has a really good podcast about it on the British version, the sister paper, I guess you'd call it. Or
and they had the Irish one as well.
Yep. That's
it.
What
was the podcast called? Do you remember?
No, I can't remember. It is there. Man. Look it up.
yeah, that's it. I mean, look, do your own research, right?
Yeah, it's not hard to get it right.
I am.
Anyway, got a hard copy of issue 11. Yay!
It is called The Light. I think it's Mariana in Conspiracy Land.
Yes, it is.
It is. It's Mariana in Conspiracy Land.
How can you forget? She's so good.
Yeah, it was really good. And some of the stuff that came out, it's that sort of like false flag, victim blaming, just abuse. And like the shamelessness and the absolute lack of remorse from the guy in it responsible. It's just so, it just sums up the cooker movement so much, where it's like, oh, we cause harm. Well, we're freedom fighters. We're truth tellers. It's just casual collateral damage. You know, it's just like, fuck you. No, you're harming people. Have some responsibility. Be an adult. Anyway.
Also close to the Salisbury Plain, which is just baked out there.
Oh, God, I can imagine. It's a really bad time to be living in rural Australia, I imagine, because you can't really go down to the pub and have any faith that, be surrounded by people of vague sanity. And it's hard because, when it comes to people who are in unfortunate minorities, like trans people especially, you kind of have to live in Newtown, but Newtown's really expensive. So that sucks. It's really unfortunate that the places that people who are vulnerable are safer are incredibly expensive. Where's the justice in that? Don't know. So you've also been getting out to some events, as you do. You love going to events. I've gone to a few events with you, which is good fun. But you fucking get around. Your diary is just like cookers. And there was Coast for One event? Some sort of launch of some sort of group? I don't really remember what this was, but I think we're about to find out a lot more. What happened?
Yeah, so I think the last time we spoke was just before Christmas, and I was talking about this group on the Central Coast.
Yep.
I've got an affinity with that place. So I spent 4 years there in the mid-noughties. You know, it's a beautiful landscape combined with exponential population growth out of Sydney since the early 70s.
Yeah, people flee there for free, like cheap houses, not free houses, but cheap housing. I've got heaps of mates who are just like, nah, we're coasties, can't afford Sydney, Central Coast, done.
Yeah, and you also have these sort of beachside or pockets of beachside playgrounds of the rich mixed in with some really poorly serviced isolated ghettos.
I know sort of both sides of that coin, and I know some very wealthy people who live up there, but I know that you can have that very much like, very degenerate sort of characters walking around in thongs just sort of looking for things to nick, and you're like, it's the coast.
Yeah, and I mean, anyone who's driven the M1 for work knows that peak hour in either direction is just a shitload of tradies battling it out to reach their destination 90 seconds earlier, over 100 Ks, and it's an angry sort of commute.
I hate that. Like, that's one of the things that really turns me off. I'd be getting the train for sure, because that sort of road vibe, like, people die, and it's not your fault. It can happen to you. Some fuckhead in a Ford Ranger who will live to 100 smashes you into paste.
Yeah, in 3 or 4 particular places along that trip.
Yeah, fuck that.
But there's a hell of a lot of woo-woo there as well, and it's been fertile ground for the freedom movement.
Unsurprising, yeah.
So to begin with, there's an episode of Tinfoil Tales coming up that's going to address aspects of the First Nations side of this story, and Aboriginal identity fraud.
Ooh.
It's a very sensitive and incredible story, but essentially we've had the perfect storm of rich wellness freaks, anti-vaxxers, survivalists, A1ers and environmentalists all bump into each other and, well, sort of like the look of each other.
Oh, no. That's not a good mix.
And as I said last time, one of the characters central to all of this is Kate Mason.
Yeah, she comes up a lot.
As an anti-jabber, she ran for IMOP under Michael and Barbara O'Neill in 22. Ran a group called Visionary Pathways throughout that year, featuring monthly speakers. It was a veritable who's who of cookers, both local and beyond. Now, that rebranded to Community Voice Australia in 2023, and always throw in the word Australia when you're just a local crew, but have bigger ambitions, yeah?
Yeah, just make you sound important. I'm not a manager, I'm Mr. Manager.
Yeah, no one's heard of you outside of, Brisbane waters, but...
Yeah, your postcode. But hey, reach for the stars, or at least the boundaries of the country, I suppose.
Yeah, so she's sort of doing okay at spreading her tentacles beyond that.
Yeah.
They held monthly talks at a local neighbourhood centre throughout 23, and they continue to the present. Smart cities, no to the voice, let the Varroa might rip, digital identity, transhumanism, renewable energy and climate being Trojan horses to take away your house and land, etc. All themes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And sort of the CPAC wet dream, if you like.
And isn't that funny? Like, these people are meant to be hippies and they're meant to be sort of activists and environmentalists. And if you look at their beliefs and their passions and their sort of political ideology, you're like, oh, really strange that just happens to coincide to be the exact same platform of the modern conservative right. Funny that. I think Daniel Morrison said something about that over about 400 pages. Yeah. Yeah. It's just a coincidence, though. There's nothing going on behind the scenes there. It's just that everyone has the same ideas because that's totally normal and natural. Yeah.
Cool. No, there's definitely thought leaders. So about, 60 folks turn up to these each time. It's Saturday afternoon. It's what else are you going to do on the coast? It's sort of the general cooker demographic. Everyone's in their 40s, 50s, 60s.
Yeah.
But she gets bigger gigs too, like the 2023 Climate Energy Forum. That happened in DY. I think it was
ground.
The ex-candidates. So that group with, she stood alongside Craig Kelly, Mark Latham and Malcolm Roberts and received a standing ovation by the end of her speech where they learned to come up with alternative definitions for climate catastrophe or whatever.
Yeah, like the fucking John Ruddock always calls it global boiling, and I'm like...
That was there. Yeah, there was a I haven't got it in front of me, but there was a slide on the screen that gave them all suggestions about alternative language.
Was that DYRSL?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember messaging them being like, are you guys sure you want to do this? And just getting nothing back. And that's fine. Like, it's their choice. But yeah, DYRSL is a massive institution that makes a lot of money from poker machines. And one of the things they do, because they're an RSL, they can't really sort of make profit. But they have so much money, they just buy up places. They've got a car wash down the road. It's really cheap. It's really good. And they've just had that land there. But that land is now worth a fortune. DYRSL, I would dread to imagine what their figures are. It's insane. They've got a giant retirement village to attach to it. So, you know, grandma doesn't have to walk too far to, you know, spend the kids' inheritance. And fuck, man, it's just an absolute just gambling industrial complex. Anyway, that is very much a diversion from that. But I do have a strange soft spot for DYRSL, even though it is like the root of evil in fucking New South Wales. Ugh. Gross.
So yeah, the clubs host a lot of these things, and
I guess they just don't
away
give
with
shit.
it.
Yeah. So she was at the Reckless Renewables rally.
She was in Canberra in February.
Unsurprising.
Yep. And you know, there's always plenty of Orange One Nation shirts at a community voice meeting. Yeah,
I noticed a lot of Club Buggery shirts at the Reckless Renewables rally. And it was really funny because, fuck, man, the hoodie cult is one of those things you don't realise it, that the pull of that weird old fuck. And then you go to something like that and you're like, oh shit, you guys are here for hoodie? Really? Why? Okay. You even bought his t-shirt. Weird. And Lada? That guy? Like, even paramedics don't like him. What the fuck are you doing? But,
amazing, isn't it?
It's a religious cult. Go and get baptized. Maybe that's what Russell Brand should have done. Come down to Australia, hopefully got a visa, and got hoodie to give him a dunk. I think it's only $100. And, all those rape charges would vanish.
That's right. That's right.
That's how it was established that. So what the fuck is going on with these bloody Community Voice Australia guys?
So in the last month, there's sort of been another rebrand, or maybe more like an expansion, because Community Voice Australia still continues, but on the alternative weekends when they're not running, we now have a group called Coast for One, not to be confused with 2 for 1, of course, which is Jody Lowe's Cook's madness.
And very dumb.
This is Coast for One, which is, it's cleverer.
Yeah, okay. So basically what we've got here is we've got the People's Front of Judea and the Judean People's Front, and they are just working in tandem there. So yeah, I get that. Yeah, it's probably the fact there's like some sort of weird dumb power grab for the pointless head of each group, and they're probably just but they love splitting. They got the splitters in Melbourne. They're a fracturing bunch. So I look forward to them like casually dividing the organisations into different names and then just shooting each other.
In this case, I don't think they've split, because Kate Mason was, pressing the love button on every announcement Coast for One made.
Yeah,
and she was constantly coming over and adjusting the video camera and firmly in charge as this meeting progressed last Saturday. But, this new group claims its purpose is to connect environmental groups on the Central Coast through awareness, sharing, and support of a common love. It's just beautiful.
Get fucked.
Yeah. But the entry fee is still the same as Kate Mason's. The layout of the room is the same. The design of the posters is the same. And it's the same fuckwits running the show.
Yeah.
So off I toddled to the Environmental Community Information Session last week.
Yep.
Please come and join us for an environmental presentation about what's happening on our coast to bring awareness and unity. This is from a out-and-out climate change denial, vaccine denier, IMOP candidate.
Coal shill.
Yes. Yeah.
Just amazing.
It's amazing. Even more amazing was that all the environmental groups showed up. Which is kind of what I went to see, was going, this is going to be...
If they would, or...
Yeah, and
they did.
Who's friends with who here? And I guess some of us closer to the joint have a few theories about this has happened. But, this seemed to be the official launch of the group, but they did, in fact, have a little meeting beforehand.
Okay.
That was called Is Your Child a Starseed? Which is a big mistake if you're trying to run undercover as a legitimate environmental group, because we all know where that's headed.
It really is like the massive giveaway. Like the whole Palladian thing is, you can't do that and then be like, we're normal. We just care about windmills. Are they good or bad? Shit, I'm not sure. Like, no.
Offering parents and others involved in the development of children an opportunity to reflect on the child's growth beyond the 5 senses. And we all know what that means too. It means you've been in the fucking Pleiades. I
must say, like, once you've got it's like the Spinal Tap thing, this ant goes to 11 and you're at 10. Where do you go? You go to 11. Now, if you've got an indigo child, but then everyone's got a fucking indigo child, then every kid could read at 3 years old. No one's got autism because no one got jabbed. And then you go, okay, what am I going to do with this dumb kid? This dumb fucking indigo child. Useless. Oh, space. That's where I'm going to go with this. I'm going to go to space. Sweet. Now my kid's a starseed. And you losers just have indigo children. Lame.
Totally. And it was given by Vicky Burke, who, as she said in her bio, is a mother and grandmother, having retired from a long career and full-time teaching of K6 children.
Oh, God.
More importantly, she is a timeless true one. Get a load of that.
Is it? And timeless true one, it's in caps. Timeless true one. Cap T, cap T, cap O. Cool.
Yeah, I looked that up, and I didn't waste a whole day on it, but I found a few strange evangelical churches in America using timeless one. I never found timeless true one.
Interesting. Well, I guess she once again just had to one up everyone. Timeless ones, losers. I'm a timeless true one.
Vicky has been aware of our changing world for many years and has travelled to Peru in 2022 and 2023 to assist in bringing in the new reality.
Yeah.
May as well be the Pleiades.
Well, it's Peru, and she went on holiday, and I think that's just a humble brag, but that's fine.
Sure.
Do you, mate? Look, I know holidays are very expensive. You want to get your money's worth, and if that involves fucking... I saw there's a character named Chrissy Firemain who was at the Reckless Renewal Rally as well, to be quite honest. And she's got a thing called the Mana Movement, and God, it sucks. And my sister actually knows her. And she's one of those like Trustafarian types. And I saw that she has an official title from some sort of Peruvian fucking group or something like that. So I looked up this official title, and what I got was a tour guide organization or some shit. And I'm like, yeah. So you like went on holiday. Some fucker was like, you are dubbed the ancient spirit warrior. And she's like, oh, yes. Oh, I'm going to use that. Like, it wasn't just the, like, fucking dumbass thing that was justifying the $6,000 week that she spent on daddy's dime.
Oh,
Get
God.
fucked. Anyway. Oh, these people are insufferable. Anyway. So, what happened? Who was there?
Turning up to present were these unassuming, or you'd hope they were unassuming, organisations like the Central Coast Council.
The council?
The council, the biodiversity officer.
Okay.
The Greens.
Okay.
Climate Action Group Rising Tide.
Ooh.
And a local eco village, which we suspect is fairly close to the centre of all these problems.
Could be cooked.
Yeah, and everyone just loves each other, so no one...
Eco village / cult compound.
Yeah, look, I looked into it, and there was, of all places, a Better Homes and Gardens story on the eco village about what's it like to live there, and everything was good, and you could get your kids babysat, and they had something on every weekend. And then when it came to the bad aspects of what was... what it was like to live in an eco village.
Yes.
There was
everyone keeps stealing my wife.
Well, probably, but, there was a quote about vaccines and how it split the place down the middle. And,
that's very honest for Better Homes and Gardens.
Yeah, it was a bit. And, you know, the way they put it was, well, we just reflect what's happening in the greater community. And the way we all read it was, if you're 50-50 on vaccines, you probably don't reflect what's happening in the general community.
The statistics aren't really out on that one. Yeah.
They're getting closer, probably.
Fucking hell.
A good dose of measles or whooping cough will change that. It's... It was pretty weird. And then you had a few others, sort of small community groups, all to display a show of unity. You know, that this whole event was run on "We need unity," which is a constant catch cry in the freedom movement. And it was, you know, when you look at the environment movement on the Central Coast or anywhere, you're going, what unity do you need? You're going pretty well, actually.
Yeah.
When in reality they'd been herded together by the cooked wellness arm of the alt-right. Simple.
100%. I'd say that often unity, what it really means is, I want you to shut up and do what you're told. Because any kind of dissenting voices is taking away from my control over this, and I have an agenda, and I very much plan to push it. And if you get in the way of that, then you become a problem.
Yeah.
Unity.
Yeah. So, you know, speaking of unity, the first thing that happened was that a guy got denied entry, straight out denied. They came up and said, you're not allowed in, and very heavily denied entry.
Really?
To the point where, having checked in with him later, he's received some fairly ominous messages in the days following from some familiar characters.
Really?
And this wasn't just any guy. He's someone who has had decades of history and was simply responding to a story about the event in the local paper and came along to see what was going on. He's sat on the boards of, the upper echelon of credible environmental organisations and been involved in actually achieving real conservation outcomes.
Yeah.
Unlike a cooker like Kate Mason, whose sole aims are to have kids going to school with measles and whooping cough and making this country's bumbling stumble towards sustainability more fraught, expensive, and most likely at the behest of the nuclear lobby.
Yeah, so I reckon my gut feeling is that he's probably kicked out because of his legitimacy, and that possibly also seen as a competition for the power in the groups.
He was recognised, and he politely called it out online in the weeks and days leading up, and they saw a threat. Mm-hmm. You also weren't allowed to, once inside, you also weren't allowed to take photos or record anything, and they kept repeating that, and they said some people speaking today don't want to be recorded or photographed.
Well,
I bet you don't. Yeah,
and of course that's such a funny thing, because the irony of that being thrown in the face of climate protests is when Chris Coveries turns up with a camera. And basically, or, especially with sort of, trans activists or anyone on that side. And he's there shoving a camera in their faces, recording them. And everyone knows that right-wing fascists are watching this and taking notes. And they say, look, mate, can you not? And he's like, oh, but I'm just journalisming. You're not. You're a white nationalist.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And all of Kate Mason's events are held this way. There's someone on the door, there's Kate always in the same spot, and there's 3 or 4 people around the back of the room keeping eyes on everything. They're on her website. You can see their faces. Yeah,
yeah.
Anyway, I got in and sat down to 2.5 of the most boring hours of community groups trying to sell themselves, in the way they normally would.
Yeah, you see it all.
Blissfully unaware, most of them, that they were all there to give Kate Mason Cooker credibility for her budding political career. I mean, the funniest thing was listening to One Nation attempt to demonstrate their care for the environment. Obviously, connect that to immigration pretty quickly, which sort of involved slides of solar panels and then immigrants, and this dumb guy's going see, and along with the healthy dose of Aboriginal identity fraud, the whole event was crazy. But really strongly advise listeners to watch out for the Tinfoil Tales episode on that.
Yep.
It's amazing, but the whole event sucked.
Yeah, I bet. When I went to Mega Freedom, the most disappointing part of it was how boring it was. And there were so many friendly people there, even though their beliefs are abhorrent. And it was that thing of trying to make something interesting and exciting. All I could do was just do laps down to Dan Murphy's and get another strong tin and come back and just hope that somehow being half cut would make it better. And it didn't. It didn't. And the conversations were weird and the speakers were awful. And then I saw Billy Bay speak and I was just like, you know what? You're all fucked. But those events, they can be really hard to get through. Just boring and long. So we're meaning to talk to you about council elections that are coming up this year. There's a lot going on and local government is terrifyingly feasible. Council spots where they can start agitating and just being dickheads about, trans rights or whatever. I mean, it's looking like there might be some cooker councillors in some unexpected places.
Yeah, there's going to be freedom fighters everywhere around the council elections. I mean, upon leaving the White House, the message the key message Steve Bannon had for his minions was to go back to their communities and take over school boards. And local government elections are Australia's version of that accessibility, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah. It is accessible as well. Our ones in New South Wales are 14th of September.
That's right, and a month later in Victoria.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So, we've seen boasting by some kind of preference whisperer from Western Australia. I think Cam Wilson covered that on Crikey.
Okay.
That he managed to get over 20 people from the movement elected. That seems about right. Maybe more.
Jesus.
We've also seen candidates get up in Queensland, most notably My Place preferred candidate becoming mayor of Townsville.
Yeah, the mayor of Townsville. That's fucked, yeah.
And shouting out to their support upon winning. And a fair bit of this has been reported by Eden Gillespie in The Guardian. So, New South Wales and Victoria, you're next.
Yeah, this is going to be a shit fight. And it's really hard to battle.
Yeah, I feel like I'm at a bit of an advantage here in Cessnock at seeing what could happen because we've already got 3 on council out of the 13.
Jeez.
And if the Liberal Party wanted to play ball with them with their 3 and another 4th not-so-cooked independent, they could run the joint.
Jesus.
So, I mean, they've already declared who they are and who's running in 2024. Well, like I said earlier, I met one at my emptying out my friend's property. Mm-hmm. They've taken the group photos and the lot, but, in other areas that's going to come a lot closer to the deadline in what I imagine will be August. They've been clever enough to tone down their membership of My Place, A1 and whatever other groups they were in and what they did on the Great Canberra tour of early 2022. And focus on issues such as gutters and filling potholes.
You sent me a guy and his platform was really reasonable.
Yeah.
fucking my plates cooker, and he sounded like I sound like someone I would vote for.
And you know, if elected, they'll be back to the basics like drag story time, trashing First Nations people, and 15-minute cities.
Just being cunts.
And it's that going back to the People's Opinion paper. We've just lost the long time. You know, not sure
like
how old
local
it is.
Newspaper, Cumberland or whatever.
Yeah. And guess who's now left running just a myriad of the local community pages on the socials.
Oh, good.
Such as My Hunter Valley News, the People's Opinion paper. It's cookers, and they've basically got the whole space to themselves.
They've filled the vacuum, basically.
Yeah.
No one else has fucking time.
No.
Just busy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So you know, we're an old coalfields community, which means it's been a jaded and unimaginative ALP council going unchallenged politically for decades, just chugging along, you know, and quite rightly people want something better than nepotism and jobs for the boys, but the alternative here is dead set scary. And, you know, what I do know is that two cookers, a fire and brimstone preacher and a guy from One Nation who isn't going to say he's One Nation, have teamed up, and they're the ticket, and they're the four who are almost certainly guaranteed to get in, and that these tactics are being discussed in the surrounding LGAs. I went to a One Nation meeting last year where there was a real earnest discussion about whether to run as One Nation or independence. And
interesting.
They're going incognito.
That makes a lot more sense.
You know, My Place Newcastle held a meeting this week to determine how they fit into local government elections. So various versions of these kinds of preparations are happening everywhere across both states.
Yeah.
You can't argue with community sentiment, but people should know whether their candidate believes that council exists as a corporate entity or some kind of 1973 shit applies, or even simple things like whether their elected mayor has been sentenced to the gallows by a people's court. It's, you know, there's a Liberal councillor in Lake Macquarie who has these kind of fantasies, and it's
not
quite
good.
Interesting who's talking to who.
Like, I've just looked at the People's Opinion paper on Facebook. Comforting that it's only got 314 members, but they've got the March 2024 edition here. And yeah, it's that sort of A4 bad fucking, graphic design and just generally just terrible. But it's pretty bad. Like, it's quite bad. Like, they've got a digital version, blah, blah, but here's just a little thing. They call it political comment. And one of the things they say under the People's Opinion paper headline is, opinions expressed in this paper reflect the comments of its readers. It's very similar to that weird, dumb thing Guru has, like, where it's their objective opinion. No. Objective opinion doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. And whatever you're trying to say there is just gibberish. But it's that disclaimer thing of being like, you know, these are just like my like thoughts, man. It's like, yeah, that's not really how this works. So there's one here called 15-minute, 30-minute cities, and it says, a master plan for a 30-minute city adjacent to Sydney's new international airport, scheduled for opening in 2026, is now on exhibition for comment. The city of Bradfield, situated on 114 hectares at Badgerys Creek, will be a planned 30-minute city free of cars, relying on public transport for moving around the city. Now, I don't quite get which part of that I should be terrified about. It's a 30-minute city, free of cars, relying on public transport for moving around the city. Now, A, that's never going to happen, and that's unfortunate. But B, if it did happen, and it was a city that they're basically going to create, that's going to turn into something that has a plan that people can choose to live in if they want to, free of cars and relying on public transport, I don't see why we can't have things like that. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It makes no sense at all. And
of course, what they want you to do is they want you to look up 15-minute cities, see that very moderate statement, but look up for more information, and then realise, oh my God, they're going to jail us in these cities. These are actually concentration camps.
That's right. Like Councillor Jerd, who was constantly pushing the fact that they were going to confiscate her car and we'd all be walking around Cessnock.
Oh my God, you just...
which would be terrifying.
Yeah. And there are some places in this world that are designed around cars, and that's never going to change, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Like inner city life and stuff like that, there's nothing wrong with nudging people toward walking to things. Stop being weird. Walking isn't that bad. You're not Americans. Stop being weird.
Yeah, and no one's going to lock us in Cessnock. But there's probably people out there who advocate for that.
I would imagine that most people are wearing invisible ankle bracelets in that area and never, ever leave. Yeah, it's like, oh no, they're going to lock us in a place that I never leave. Imagine if I did what I did normally but had no choice about it. Cool, dickheads. Anyway, so let's move on to the Aussie Cossack. What are your thoughts on him?
You've got to wonder how he's going, don't you? Is it a year or 500 days?
I think it's 500 days.
I mean, if he likes it, he must have always been a guy who locked himself in the bedroom a lot.
That's for the better of people around him, I think.
Yeah. That's crazy. It can't be good being far out, but he perks himself up for his videos, so who would know?
He posts like a machine gun, and I'm going to put a bit of that to the listeners soon because... Man, this guy posts. Holy fuck, he posts. Endlessly.
Yeah, he's now been, beyond what brought him, the history that brought him to the doorstep in Willara. He's now been part of recent moments where, one, he was a key influencer in the online misinformation about the Bondi stabbing and that shift in those hours straight afterwards where it shifted from it was a Muslim to it was a Jew. And, we don't need to name anybody there. But two, stoking the fires of what took place outside the Good Shepherd Church in Prairie Wood after Marmari was stabbed.
Yeah, I saw
that. So, it's reached a point where Andrew Bolt has called him out and Peter Credlin wants him down for 20 years, which... it's got to be as close as to community consensus we can get, doesn't it?
I don't love agreeing with Peter Credlin, so that does hurt me in a special place. Probably different reasons, but I tell you what, we can see eye to eye on that. Although I would never see her eye to eye because I know that staring her in the eye turns you into stone. But anyway, so look, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here because I've dug up some stuff about the Aussie Cossack thing, and I'm going to use other people's excellent work to really just sort of outline what happened here. So, according to an ABC report that you may or may not have read, this whole thing sort of relies on this dataset analysis, which was provided to the ABC investigations team by Mark Owen Jones, who is a digital disinformation expert from Qatar's Hamad bin Khalifa University. And it has been revealed through analysing this data set of social media posts and internet activity and whatnot that the Cossack was one of the key figures spreading the whole Ben Cohen's name in relation to being the attacker, which is kind of naughty. But he's washed his hands of it pretty strongly. He's arguing that he was not the first to break the news, and he's hiding behind the fact that he said in the post that it was unconfirmed, which according to him, his lawyer protector has said that has protected him from a defamation action, which I'm really not sure about. I'm not sure if his lawyer said that. I'm not sure what the fuck. Look, there's not enough detail, but the tweet that Cossack came out said, Channel 7 literally said confirmed and falsely named Ben Cohen. As my lawyer, Mark Davies, advised this morning, the difference between reporting news and as confirmed or unconfirmed is critical. Yes, I would say Ben has a strong quick settlement defo case against Channel 7. Now, the last bit is ostensibly true. Boykov's lawyer is named Mark Davis. It's not Davies, it's Davis. He's a blue tick. He can edit that. I find it very strange that he misspelled his lawyer's name, and I'm not quite sure whether that was intentional or whether he's an idiot. But one thing that I can say is that he's heavily relying on this and continually says the fact that he said unconfirmed is his get out of jail free card on this one, and he really nails that point home. So I'm going to use this secondhand legal advice, and you might want to as well. Okay, so I would like to say that I have unconfirmed reports that Simeon Boykov in Wallara eats poo for breakfast. Now, it's unconfirmed, but I hear that he eats it every day, and he eats it with toast. He smears the poo on the toast and eats it. Now, I have been informed by my subscribers in unconfirmed reports that he likes to eat the poo very much, and sometimes he says, while eating poo on toast, yummy like borscht, while his mouth is full, with the scent of human feces coming out of his mouth with an almost cartoonish style of spittle all over his tiny, tiny room in the consulate in Wallara. This is unconfirmed, though. This is unconfirmed.
It's an easy mistake to make.
Do you want to say anything unconfirmed about Boykov, or have I summed it up?
Nah.
Or do you not trust the legal advice? Do you think maybe that legal advice wasn't right, and that just saying unconfirmed and then saying wild shit might not stop you from being actionable?
Oh, just all the people connected with this just seem to end up visiting the Russian embassy. It's amazing. But I'll talk about that in a minute.
Well, it's a nice area, so don't underestimate the draw of old Vaucluse. It's really nice. It's somewhere. It's Wallara. Yeah.
Wallara, yeah.
Eastern suburbs.
There's harbour pools. Don't swim them after it rains.
It's nice. Yeah. Otherwise, you might get a Boykov breakfast. So the incident itself in Bondi occurred at 4:30 p.m. and the ABC reports that at 6:59 p.m. an account named Sunny Dan, which has 37 followers and apparently has a history of reposting anti-Jewish images and content from self-described misogynist Andrew Tate, makes a false and racist claim, which is, quote, unconfirmed report, terror attack in Bondi. Terrorist name is, all caps, Benjamin Cohen, a radical Jew from Bondi, Sydney. And then goes on to say, only a Jew would stab a baby, making sense now. Charming. It's a real Venn diagram of people who like Andrew Tate and cunts. And it's kind of a circle. Anyway. So at 10:05 p.m, someone tweets the Benjamin Cohen theory to Cossack. And at 10:30 p.m, he sends out a post identifying the attacker as Benjamin Cohen. And saying basically it's been identified by his subscribers and also awaiting confirmation. Magic get out of jail free words, like the hazard lights of wording. I just put high vis on and I can do anything. No, you can't just say unconfirmed and say anything. Anyway, I'm going to harp on about that through the whole fucking rant. The post read, the Sydney Bondi Mall attacker has been identified by our subscribers as Benjamin Cohen, awaiting confirmation. And then, this is great. What are the origins of the surname Cohen? Now, for our listeners who don't know the origins of the surname Cohen, I don't really know it in detail, and I probably should have written this in the script, but it's a Jewish surname, and it's a high up one. I know a Cohen. His name's Reese Cohen. He's a fucking great guy, and I think there's a little bit of sort of like it's like being like Khan in Pakistan. It's a high up name. I guess those people are probably closer to God than other people. But at the end of the day, all he's saying is, dude's a Jew. That's what he's fucking saying. So thanks, Boykov. Good work there. Really not hiding the anti-Semitism on that one. I really do like the fact that you give yourself away. Just dobbing on yourself. Anyway, so despite awaiting confirmation, at 10:51 p.m, which is like 20 minutes after, he posts a screenshot of Ben Cohen's LinkedIn profile and says, unconfirmed reports identify the Bondi attacker as Benjamin Cohen. And then, again at 11 p.m, because this guy just fucking posts, unconfirmed reports identify the Bondi attacker as Benjamin Cohen. Cohen? Really? And to think so many commentators tried to initially blame Muslims. So while the Cossack wasn't the first one to post it, as we said earlier, his posts were the most influential with the most views and engagement. And this is something he is desperately trying not to be proud of, downplaying his audience and his reach in this phone interview he had with an ABC journalist on the phone that he posted to YouTube, which is, of course, in violation of New South Wales law, which is a, sort of mutual consent state where you have both parties must consent to the recording before you can do that. And it appears he did not do that. He just chucked it on YouTube and had his fuckwit Maram Suzley, aka Partisan Girl or Syrian Girl. She's in the video listening to the call and laughing for reasons I find quite baffling. Anyway, you can see how much they care about the victims of this entire ordeal. You know, the post is still on his Telegram. I had a look at it this afternoon.
He also ran a poll.
Yes, he did.
In the middle of that night.
Yes, he did. And he basically said, who is the most likely one to be the attacker? And included, there was another name which I didn't really bother bringing into the story, but it turns out that was just a picture from a porn site, like a gay porn actor or something. And the other one was Jimmy the Junkie, which is apparently a Houzo's character. Yeah. And he gave the ABC journalist shit for not knowing Houzo's and said that it was on the ABC and I believe it was on SBS. Yeah, who's the idiot now?
Strangely enough, the Guardian at the door of the Coast for One meeting the other day was wearing a Houzo's tank top, but I digress.
What a coincidence. What a coinky flink. Well, it goes on insofar as the shit show goes on in fucking minute detail, where the Cossack just kept on posting about Cohen, post his LinkedIn profile, said next to a picture of the actual attacker and the LinkedIn photo, what do the experts in the comment section think? Is it Ben Cohen? And, of course, his mate, Syrian Girl, Maram Suzley, pipes up around 11:26 p.m., quote-tweeting Boykov saying, if this is true, it would explain why I thought he looked Israeli. Cool. Okay. It's pixels. It's pixels and a beard, you fucking assholes. Anyway. The Cossack continues to post about Cohen, but it is worth noting that, of course, as I said before, the Cossack posts all the fucking time. He posts so much. He's a machine gun. He posts 50 a day on his Telegram. Honestly, going through it is tiring. It's labor. So the fact that he repeated himself over and over again just to get more traction and just make more noise seems to be his standard MO. So it's not like this is the only time he's ever just harped on about something. But later that night at 3 a.m., Matt Wallace, who is a genuine fuckwit right-wing blowhard, don't give him any time, pushed the Cohen theory and got 6 million views on Elon Musk's Nazi shithole platform. And at 6:15 a.m., the dumb shits at Channel 7 broke the fucking news on television. On Sunrise, I think, Matt Shervington, ex-Olympian. Oh, man, that's not good. So 2 hours later, Suzley, a.k.a. Syria Girl, Partisan Girl, blah, 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 she tweets in all caps, Bondi attacker was Jewish, name confirmed as Benjamin Cohen. Now, that kind of kills the unconfirmed defense, although now you can blame Channel 7. But you couldn't do it before. Tweeted up a fucking storm before Channel 7 broke the news. So then at 8:38, New South Wales Police identify the killer, and this Partisan Girl account deletes all her tweets on it. Oh no. A little moment of self-realization. Maybe you done fucked up. So at 9:12 a.m., Boykov posts the real identity and apologized for the error. And it's kind of an earnest apology. Kind of. For him, it is. However, the damage is done. I mean, before 7 News reported it, Cohen had, and this is the quote, thousands of LinkedIn requests from people who believed he was the attacker. So later that day, 6:24 p.m., so the other side of the day, Partisan Girl tweets a lengthy apology and blames Channel 7 for being deceived, despite the fact that she was posting it way before Channel 7 broke the news anyway. You can't really use that as a fucking defense when you were ahead of Channel 7. But, of course, this is the thing they're trying to muddy the waters with and make it look like Channel 7 is the target. And Channel 7's the money target. So that's fair enough, because since then, unsurprisingly, Cohen has lawyered up and got a settlement from 7 of an undisclosed amount, which I imagine is in the sort of, early to mid six figures. It's got to be something like that. And the kicker is that Cohen's lawyer, Patrick George, said he was also instructed to make representations to the police commissioner, quote, concerning the conduct of certain persons on social media who originated, agitated, or facilitated this dangerous and harmful false accusation. And I can only think of two people that they'd be really talking about there, which of course is the Cossack and this Syrian girl. I mean, they're in the crosshairs. So Cohen issued this statement himself, but via his lawyers apparently, which is users who abuse a platform to target individuals or communities should be held accountable for the consequences of their actions, and platforms should be more accountable for the content they host. There's very much two different statements in there, one of which Cohen has a lot of control over. But considering the fact that both the defendants are broke as fuck in this situation, this is not a money-making exercise. Cossack and Partisan Girl are fairly famous for being cash-strapped because so the Cossack ripped off his grandmother, but is also defaulting on his car payments to try to finance. So I don't think he's got money. Otherwise, he's just holding out in his bills, which isn't exactly a noble trait. I guess cookers don't really give a shit about general human decency, though. And then you've got this fucking Partisan Girl, the Syrian girl, who put her hat out for money at fucking every chance I've seen. She's got a Patreon, she's got a coffee, she's got a blah, blah, blah. She has a protracted appeal for vague legal fees, which was on Give, Send, Go, but has now been unpublished. Last time I saw it was something like $13,000 or $16,000, and it'd been going since like fucking December for just vague legal fees. And someone on Twitter even said, "What's this money going for?" And she just said legal fees. That was the answer. Legal fees. 2 fucking words. Yeah, okay, cool. What legal fees? Be specific. Oh, you can't. Oh, I wonder why. So Cohen is probably the only one who can really sue these guys. I don't think there's any other actionable, I don't think anyone else has got standing to take action. I just don't know. I don't know enough about it. But if he does choose to go after one or both of these people, he will lose money doing it. Even if he's awarded damages and costs, he's not going to fucking get them. So if he is true to his word, saying that users who abuse a platform to target individuals or communities should be held accountable for the consequences of their actions, he needs to put his money where his mouth is and pull the trigger on this lawsuit. Because if he doesn't, those words are fucking hollow. But I tell you what, the temptation to take that money and instead of giving it to a fucking barrister, you take it and put a down payment on a unit. I mean, that's pretty tempting. You know, I wouldn't begrudge him if he decided to just, take the money and run. Let's face it. So this one's from news.com.au, which is that Ms. Susley and Mr. Boykov also appeared in a video together calling for their supporters to pledge financial assistance if they're sued. Quote, "If we have to fight and defend ourselves against an Israeli lobby-funded defamation lawsuit against us, would you crowdfund us?" A few months later, he said, "Look at the comments coming in. Everyone's saying, yeah." Sorry, not a few months. A few moments later, he said, "Look at the comments coming in. Everyone's saying yes. We haven't even started and people are already throwing money at us." Okay. So I don't know about the truth of whether people are actually throwing money or if he's just talking shit because he's Aussie Cossack and that's what he's like. But it's been funny to watch this because Avi Yemeni and the Cossack have been fucking at each other over this, with Avi claiming that Benjamin Cohen's only crime was being Jewish, which, to be honest, probably sounded better in text than when you say it. Because, being Jewish isn't a crime, but you've kind of said that. It's not. I think it could have been worded better. But he followed by saying that he hopes he sues every anti-Semite who lied about him, including Aussie Cossack and Partisan Girl. And the Cossack responded on Telegram saying, "Lol, now Avi Yemeni calls me an anti-Semite and wants to me sued. Send me a concerns notice, fool. Unconfirmed means unconfirmed. Bring it on." So you can see how he's leaning on that legal advice from Mark Davies. I don't think that Mark said that. Maybe he did. I don't fucking know. I don't know. It's unconfirmed. It's unconfirmed. I don't know. But of course, Cohen wasn't the only one who was having an identity crisis that day, with the Bollard man, the French national Damien Garot, being said to be Russian. Now, this apparently originated from the Queensland conman and perennial fuckwit cooker Jamie McIntyre on Twitter. And I can say he's a conman. Because other people said he's a con man, and I believe he's been convicted of several things that would make him a con man, because he's a con man, and he's a con artist, and he's a con man, and he's a con head. So the one thing I didn't know about Jamie McIntyre is I didn't know he was a Putin simp, but I mean, I'm not surprised at all. He reeks of an Andrew Tate kind of guy. He's just horrible cunt of a human being. And the Cossack repeated this with a Telegram post saying, Channel 7 reports that Bollard man who bravely held off the Bondi knife attacker was actually Russian. What a surprise. The hero of the day turns out to be Russia. How will Penny Wong swallow this news? Get fucked. So that's basically the sort of social media timeline of the Aussie Cossack latching onto a dumb idea which fit in with his fucked up political ideals and just ran with it. And then when things got hairy, hid behind a fucking asterisk caveat. And really, like, I don't think that he's going to see consequences for his actions. I don't think he ever really does. And if Cohen decides to walk away and not give this payout to fucking Sue Chrisenthu, or however you pronounce her name, or fucking Justin Quill or some shit, that's fair enough. But I think what he said about holding people accountable like this was quite good. It was a good statement, but it's meaningless if he doesn't follow up with anything.
Absolutely. Although, you know, how experienced he is in the world the Cossacks brought him into is another question too. Like, what would you do?
Well, the thing about suing Cossack is that he would make it a circus.
Yes.
He would fuck with you constantly with adjournments and fucking not showing up and filing the wrong paperwork and dumb discovery requests and all sorts of shit. It'd be the sort of like, you know, the civil version of paper terrorism. And then eventually, when you got to the end, when he's got like indemnity costs and a 6-figure payout on his head, you're not going to get any money for it. You're not going to get any of that money.
No.
The only thing I think you can rely on is a Jewish lawyer or a lawyer with deep Jewish sympathies doing a pro bono, or at least for a very fucking low rate. Because, yeah, this is not a money-making exercise. Cossack is not a wealthy man. And even if he did have the money, which is possible, I don't know his fucking bank balance, it's all unconfirmed, he's not going to give it without a fight. Recovering money from an unwilling participant in a court situation is a fucking nightmare. So it wouldn't be fun. It would not be fun. It would be 3 years of being fucked with by a psychopath.
Excuse me, but I mean, to me, going back to what Credlin and Bolt were saying, is we should look at things such as the regular worldwide rallies for freedom that take place every 3 or 4 months. And I mean, we know how they began, but with a view to the ones particularly in Sydney, but also the others, is how many of the speakers have been visitors to the Russian consulate in Wallara prior to the event. It's quite a lot. And
that's interesting.
You know, whether they're actually getting an audience with the consul, and there's been a few photographs of people like McBride and the Stillingsworths.
McBride, that's weird. Cossack and McBride mates.
Yeah, with the consul. And or whether they're hanging outside at the Ataman barbecue. It's, you know, and then there's the all expenses paid for no rally and the free beers outside the Victorian Parliament to farewell Dictator Dan. It's a lot. Yeah. And, the
beers are very sus. I think the no rally, like, I mean, they had TNT Radio as a sponsor. John Ruddick seemed ponying up for something. Clive Palmer was involved insofar as Craig Kelly, had a lot of space on that. And they sort of unilaterally decide that, Guru can't speak because it's being funded by someone who doesn't want him to speak. So I can see the idea that the Cossack and his fucking, his car is like, car that he's defaulted on was there instead of him with the Ataman fucking plates to the left of the stage, to stage right.
Surrounded by bollards and tape.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was very funny, and clearly he had something to do with something, but it's so hard to know whether they have like an in-principle agreement where he promotes the rally and is like, like a useful friend, or whether there was some dark money that he was injecting into the event. I don't know.
And essentially, I mean, Ruddock and Kelly discussed the planning with Cossack and the phone call that took place. So they were there talking to the Russian consulate.
Yeah.
Planning
I find
that
Ruddock
rally, the funding of it, the staging.
Being mates with Cossack is weird.
Yeah.
That's very concerning to me. I didn't know that until today, that they were as close as they are.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff there. And, those rallies are just constantly pushed out of there and now quite brazenly. So, Sky News has given those some fairly sympathetic coverage. So perhaps Peter Credlin and Andrew Bolt could look at those. Yeah,
I think that would be something they really want to do a bit of reflection, Maybe take a moment to think about maybe they're part of the problem, and the reason why they want Cossack to have 20 years in jail is also something that they might engage in, and they maybe want to stop.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, Aussie Cossack's a piece of shit. Your local area is about to be overtaken by cookers, and you're about to have fucking Senator Babbitt doing Ayn Rand story time to children to make some sort of dumb point. That sucks. And I feel sorry for any children that are dragged there, but it's just going to be a bunch of fucking washed out, hungover cookers turning up and being like, what's he talking about? Atlas Shrugged is fucked. Yeah, but at least it's not gay shit. And I don't know why anyone would want any of that. But look, we have learned something today, and that is that we can defame people as much as we want, as long as we say it's unconfirmed first. So that has made my life really easy, and I'm looking forward to saying all sorts of really fucked up shit, saying unconfirmed beforehand, and not getting sued. So expect some really good podcast material in the future, folks, because I'm just going to say whatever the fuck I want. Unconfirmed. Thanks, Mark Davies. Oh, well, you got anything else to add?
No, nothing to that. Lots of council stuff.
Yeah, well, keep on top
Next
of it.
time.
We'll check in and we'll get, especially in the run up to it, and try and get some more specific stuff on cook candidates and stuff like that. But for now, thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.
I don't think I ever want to talk to any of those people.
Fuck me!